Hey everyone, David March here. I'm your host of the Growth Mindset podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about leadership principles. We have our guest here, Robert. He's going to be speaking from his experience in the military. We'll be going back and forth on what it's what leadership is in the military versus corporate, and of course talking about old school bosses and new school bosses as we've had on other episodes, and it's going to be a great show. And we're back. I'm your host, of course, David March. I have Patrick Brown here.
How's everybody doing?
And we got Robert.
Hey everyone, Robert Spaboda here.
Perfect, perfect. So I'm really excited about this episode here, and I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction here. I think that the reason why I'm so passionate about this is I wanted to kind of bring in kind of what I've seen in my own life, and through working with multiple different clients as a coach myself, which I found to really just consistently found myself working for old school bosses, and this is to say the fear-based bosses, autocratic leadership. Some might even call it toxic leadership, and you know, I believe that if we get these ideas out there and we can kind of create a conversation on this, it could turn what's been my karma into a mission, and into really a way to change the leadership as it's been. Um, so there's a statement in from the Buddhist point of view called turning karma into mission, which really resonates with me because it's in Buddhism there's this great sense of responsibility that I resonate with, and there's also this standalone spirit that states in substance. I want to take this on for the sake of world peace, for the sake of everybody else having a better life, and you know, in the sense of karma, you've probably heard the term of karma before, right, Patrick?
Absolutely. I would say that a lot of people use it in a way that seems negative or derogatory, but karma is much more of a balance between what you put in is what you get out in a reflective nature, as opposed to, people always say, karma's going to get you. Well, it's not necessarily out to get you, but yes, karma.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's there to kind of give us maybe like a lesson, or give us like some kind of indication that like, hey, if you keep getting into these type of situations, maybe there's a lesson here. Maybe there's something we can learn. And the big thing is instead of like just having that kind of situation go over and over again, kind of on a metaphysical level, turning karma into mission is really about ending the cycle of wrong leadership, or
Hmm.
if on a personal level, like you could say generational trauma, generation after
Absolutely.
generation, where in the business it could be generation after generation. A particular company is the same way. So that's why we're here, really, just to kind of um, make the movement move, if you will, and really to allow not only us but everyone else to really benefit from what it is about um, positive leadership that has empathy, that can really stop the kind of cycle of the fear-based leadership and get everyone back onto kind of more transformational leadership, and you know put that into a business context. Um, Now, what do you think about that, Patrick? Is that a good mission?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like as the world is evolving, we're entering into a much more digital, technologically advanced workspace. and we still have a need for networking and communication, to me, to be much more present than it was before when we were more industrial and factory. So therefore, it causes that leadership needs to transform in order to keep up with the pace of how our world is changing. So maybe, with a few pointers and information from the major, we can see how we can take some of the things like camaraderie and just a overall way of moving, I guess you could say, information amongst members in the military to kind of transform that into the workplace so that everybody sees the mission is greater than the individual purpose and really latch on to the ideas of the company. So,
Perfect. Yeah, and so Robert, I think you could talk about that as well. I mean, in the
Yeah.
military, that there's definitely it's definitely more mission based, which is what I like about it.
Well, it does start with a mission, and there are different hierarchies, just as there are in the corporate world in the military, right? You have your enlisted folks, you have your officers, and then there are junior, mid, and senior levels, both on the enlisted side and the officer side. But what they all come around is the common mission, the concept of the operation, right? There's a mission defined, and then we go through a process called the military decision-making process to develop a CONOP, a concept of the operation. How are we going to do this? And guess what? That is a collaborative effort. Everyone is focused on that mission, and everyone understands what their part is going to be in that mission based upon that concept of the operation and the input that they get to give. Now, we mentioned the word camaraderie. That starts with a common bond, a common understanding of not only the mission as it pertains to the task at hand, but the mission of your organization, the mission of your unit, or in this case, the mission of, for me, the Army, for Patrick, the Marine Corps and Navy, right? So, we throw the word mission around, and maybe it's a little broader than that. It's who you are as an organization. What is your organizational mission? And I know corporations have mission statements. Well, yes, I'm glad you have a mission statement. Is your day-to-day activities actually bound to that mission statement? Does your junior, mid-level, and senior leadership understand their play in that mission statement and how they're actually supporting that mission statement? Because really, that's what camaraderie is. When you come together around a common bond from a frame or from a place of common understanding. And in the military, yes, you go through basic training, you go through boot camp, and that's sort of drilled in you. You become a Marine, or you become, be all you can be in the military, and you share that common experience of boot camp. Well, we can't, Coca-Cola can't have a boot camp and put all their employees through a boot camp. Maybe it would work. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't. But they do have corporate training, right? And that's maybe where it should be more mission focused and flesh out what that mission statement for a company means, and then incorporate into your training from day one, so that people, when they arrive, know what the goal is, know what the mission is, know what the concept of the operation is, and they can bond around that and gain camaraderie as they go through that training process, and then as they go through their career, however long or short it is at that company. So camaraderie is kind of thrown about as just this, hey, we all get together and hang out. No, it's you get together and hang out, but you come from a place of commonality, of common experience, and then you focus around your mission statement.
Love it.
Right?
Love it. Yeah, I agree. And I think that the big piece here is, you know, uh, I'm not from the military background, but I've constantly seen that, in the workplace and in corporate environments, there's so much of this like competing against each other and this every man or woman out for themselves mentality, and it doesn't create that unity. And that's what
But you throw
I
that out. In the military, that is a non-starter. You will not
Yeah,
make it. You
that
will
is a
not make it.
yeah.
You will get weeded out, found out, thrown out by either your leadership or quite possibly your peers in relatively quick order.
Absolutely.
There is no me in the military. Yeah.
I, I was gonna say that I think that we operate in a ranking system when it comes to pay. So it's not necessarily, I guess you could say, the same structure in corporate America on how you make more money or you advance. We advance through our MOS based on job and your evals from, also your PFT score, your physical fitness. But uh, our way of, procuring more money is different in the military. And I guess in some ways that
Well, it is
may be
performance based.
okay.
It is performance based. I mean, you get an officer evaluation report, you get an NCOER, you get an OER, and at
Yeah.
least in my company, you get an annual review, you get a semi-annual review, and that's tied to your work, which is also tied to your ability to perform against goals that were defined at the beginning of the year, and whether
Yeah.
or not you meet those goals define how much percentage raise you're going to get at the end of the year.
Okay.
You know,
Um,
so
so
there
I
is
so
some tie-in there.
yeah, I was gonna say, well, I guess, from companies that I've been in, it wasn't so clear cut on advancement procedures. This same way, like I said, in the military, it was pretty straightforward on how you make, your cutting
Yeah,
score. But in corporate America, sometimes you can just know somebody, or you could be a little more favorable with this person than that person. And, I think sometimes that breaks
the
down in a
path is not as defined.
yes. And
Right.
it causes a cloudiness. And in that cloudiness, it allows for promotions that sometimes cause people to feel slighted because they're
Yeah.
not even sure how that person got promoted over them based on metrics that they seem non-existent in some cases, even if they
True.
are there.
True. Well, it goes back to, if you have a corporate mission statement,
Mm.
is everything tied to that? Are your goals for your employees tied to that? Are you holding people accountable to that mission statement year over year? Is
Mm.
there advancement, performance, pay increase, or promotion tied to that? It is in the military, and if
Yeah.
it isn't in your corporate gig, then maybe it's not the right company if
Mm.
you're a true performer,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And to be fair, I think we can all agree that in corporate America today, at least I know I've heard this saying, and I've only look, I joined in '87, I retired in 2010 after 23 years. I've been in corporate America for about 14 years now. I've heard the statement, and quite a while ago, actually, if you want to move up, you have to move out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
So
I talk about all the time. You
which
know,
makes it hard to build a team and
yeah.
have camaraderie if your front door, and I'm in IT, if your front door for your IT organization is a revolving door and there are people coming and going faster than you can keep up with. So you have to
Yeah.
build an organization that people want to stay with.
So I would say, so who would you say that falls on in a company? Let's say you came to a company, and you were like the guy who flips people's diners and come in and talk to, changing the atmosphere. Where would you begin? I know we start with the mission statement of the company, but then how would we incorporate that into, let's say, new evals, and where would we begin in a company to, start revamping that?
Well, the CEO would have to be on board, obviously. Then I would
Okay.
go directly for uh, the HR, whoever the chief human resources person is, and then quickly tie in the chief operating officer or the chief of staff, whomever they have.
Mm.
Because those three people, HR, chief of staff, or your COO, are the ones that deal with the field. That means everyone else out there, whether they're sales or whether they're internal employees, on a day-to-day basis.
Mm.
And if they understand and if they know their ability to reach out and impact their employee base, then they can carry the message forward,
Mm.
right? It's not unlike in the military when your battalion commander receives a mission from the brigade commander. The
Okay.
company commanders meet. They develop an operations order, and that operations order is disseminated down. The platoon leader gets it, and then what's the platoon leader do? He gets the platoon together and briefs
and
the
tells them what
platoon as to what
yeah.
each squad's going to be doing. Right. So it is the same, but it doesn't work as well in corporate America because the roles are not as clearly defined.
Defined, yeah.
It could
Yep.
work if everyone had this, if everyone believed and understood the mission statement.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more than just, yeah, we have a mission statement. It's more than, check the box.
Check the
Yeah.
box. Yeah, that seems like a lot of people's mission statement. You'll read it and you'll see it, but as far as it showing up, there was a company that really preached integrity when you did the end doc, but once you started understanding how they were handling business, it's like, yeah, integrity is not applauded here, and sometimes it's even someone's now looking side eye because you reported things that are not,
Yeah, yeah, and
So
actually,
then,
that was one of the things that we talked about previously. I think that was really important too. Um, there's I think that the problem is typically when you have this blind obedience with
Mhm.
no accountability. And so, and then also people don't feel safe to come up and say like, "Hey, I believe this is wrong," or or this person is out of integrity. Um, where I think Robert could say, if that happened in the military, someone
Mhm.
from the lowest position could go up and still say, "Hey, like I think this person's not
well,
doing
we're
what."
taught from day one that you're to follow, quote, all lawful orders.
Yep.
And that is interpreted down to the lowest
To
private.
the
And
Yep.
if they feel uncomfortable about doing something that their sergeant or lieutenant or even company commander told them to do, they can go up through the chain of
Mhm.
command, sometimes around the person in question, and use the open door policy and say, you know what, Captain, my lieutenant told me to do this, but I don't quite feel that's right. I just wanted you to know about it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So yeah, I think that is one of the big things in business that I am not sure how we can pull that together. We're tasked to save the nation, defend America. And because of that task, it it becomes something that's bigger than you. And sometimes in corporate America, I wonder, how do you gain people to feel that way about the company they work
Instill
for?
the same level of drive.
Hmm.
Right? We're sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United
Yeah,
States. It's pretty heady stuff if you think about it. And by the way, we in the United States military, it's a big distinction. We are sworn to the Constitution, not to a person,
yeah,
to a
exactly.
president, not to a group of people, but to the Constitution. So, um, but how do you get the rank and file to believe in the mission statement of the company? Well, again, it comes back to the officers, your CEO, your COO, your chief of staff.
How well do they embody that
How well do
mission?
they embody it? How well does that translate down through their direct reports?
Hmm.
How is what they do on a day-to-day basis driven by that mission statement? And are they setting the example? Are they setting goals related to that mission statement? And I know at the company I used to work for, we did. I mean, our goals when we typed them up and sent them to our subordinates, they had to be tied directly to our 5 corporate goals. You know,
Which is great. Which is great. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what you want to see. I think that to lead this comparison on, but from what's kind of like the old school or like kind of more the autocratic or fear-based leadership to kind of the new school is a lot of times um I don't really have those goals set up. They don't
well,
have the
Dave,
goals
let
set
me
up
pause on that for a second. Do you know why I think use the term fear-based leadership several
Mhm.
times now? I think poor leaders exhibit that behavior such that they lead through fear because they doubt themselves. They don't know what they're actually doing. They are not confident for whatever reason. Maybe they don't actually know. Maybe they don't grasp the
Yeah.
situation. Maybe they don't care to. I don't know. But the bad leaders I've seen that, start dictating and yelling and start sort of, I would say, reprimanding sort of haphazardly throughout the organization. You scratch the surface a little bit, you'll find out that they're not actually up to par.
Competent.
They're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing. Were they lazy? Did they procrastinate? Do they have something to hide? Was there a bad deal done on a piece of paper somewhere with a contractor or a vendor that they're trying to, keep under the
Yeah.
rug? Let's talk about what just happened with who was the company that had a $1.5 billion accounting error that they were trying to keep under the rug for the past 2 to 3 years. It was big news last week, and that company finally had to pay the piper, and they let that person go. And guess what? I'm willing to bet if you worked in that person's organization, it was not a good place to work because
Mm.
they had this secret that they knew. They cooked the books a while back. And if you came to them and said, "Hey, Patrick, by the way, I noticed about 2 years ago you had a 1.5, maybe it was billion, maybe it was million, I don't know, but you had
Yeah.
a $1.5 million error here in your books." You're like, "Shh, hey, we don't talk about that."
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing to worry about. Don't worry about it. Just go back to doing whatever it is you were doing. Did I
Yeah.
Absolutely.
did I tell you to look at that? No, just go do what I told you to do. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I've had many leaders in the military, and I can tell you that none I've had have had that um, anything to fear or have to be use fear in their leadership style to get things done.
Yep. 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 I completely agree with you. Um, I think that is kind of the issue. The issue also there is they want to see you do the behaviors. They want to see you take actions. And then they just want you to take more, to do more, do more, and without speaking to you about what goals they have. So at the end of the day, you came in for one job, came in for one role, but
Hmm.
they want you to do these other roles, and they can't bring it back to why they want you to do it, or bring it back to a particular goal. And what eventually needs to happen is you need to start setting boundaries, um, because if you keep taking in these things that they want you to do, you won't get your own work done, and then they're going to be upset that you didn't get your work done that they hired you for, and it just all
Yeah.
goes downhill from there.
It causes a lot of pressure on the worker. When leadership is bad, when structure is bad, then the worker is the one who suffers down at the bottom. Um, so we were talking about, I guess you could say, our personal ideas of what we think is wrong with business. Do you have any pet peeves with business overall of, I guess you could say the previous structure or the current structure that we have that you think needs to be changed or improved upon?
Is that for me or
Um,
for
Yeah,
Dave?
yes, yes. I'm sorry for you, Major. I am
No,
sorry.
no worries. Um, well, again, I've had the good fortune of working for several companies in my corporate career. It
Mhm.
started with a family-owned business, and it was a the joke is, you want to make enough money to own a yacht. Well, this particular company, they actually own a yacht company, like they own a yacht manufacturing company.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and they've been in town and around for a very long time. Still family owned, and it was a interesting place to work because of the mission statement. Everyone knew that they were on the same bus together. Everyone had a seat on the bus. Everyone deserved the seat on the bus,
Mm.
and the driver knew where they were going. Now, I've also been in corporations where the bus has a front door, a back door. People are jumping in and out of the windows. They don't know which seat they have. The bus driver maybe has the bus in gear. It might be in reverse. Nobody really knows what's going on. So the people on the bus, even the ones that are actually legit trying to get somewhere,
Yeah.
don't know how to get there.
Mm.
Again, it comes down to good leadership. And that is not something that you can teach someone, I believe. It's something that has to be experienced, has to be garnered, has to be earned. And we talk
Yeah.
about Dave, in your article here, leaders um, tend to be oh yeah, okay, new school bosses. They make goals, they track them and think them through. They lead from the front, knowing what the job takes to get done, and they can get involved in mentoring and training others and can lead others to have a high standards. And what does this create? Well, it creates a high performing culture that builds people up, creates trust, understanding, and very important here, psychological safety, which results in what? Your employees sticking around longer,
Yeah.
less turnover, which makes your organization inherently stronger. So let me talk about that for a second. Leaders lead from the front. That doesn't mean they do the work. Leaders set the example. So I will go in and I'll show folks how I want things done. And then it's the be, no, do model. And then I let them try it. And then I ask them, okay, well, what do you need to get that done? You know the standard. I defined the standard for you. I showed you the standard. What do you need to perform to standard? So it's an iterative and cooperative process where I enable and empower my direct reports to eventually, hopefully, one day, maybe even take over my role. And I'll give you a direct example. I had a data center engineer, had been with the company for 15, 20 years, and we did a divestiture. Well,
Mm.
guess what? I felt she was managerial material. Now, she was a very technical, in the weeds, you call them pizza box IT types, where you slide a pizza under the door once a week and the green lights stay flashing and that's it. You never see them, you never hear from them. And I said, well, I think you've got what it takes to be the data center manager. And she was like, no, 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 I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. There's no way I could never do that. And I said, well, guess what? You're already doing it. And I explained to her exactly how she was already doing it by being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, by understanding what her level 1 and 2, 3 and engineers were doing, by understanding the technologies involved and how they worked with another with one another, how engaging with the vendors to make sure that all our contracts were up to date and paid for on time. I said, you're already doing all these things.
Wow.
And there was silence on the other side of the phone.
Mm.
And she says, oh, well, I can't argue with that. You're right. And she's still to this day the data center manager. But what did I do? I empowered, enabled,
There
and
it is.
supported someone that I felt had the potential to be promoted, even
Yeah.
though they felt they didn't. It's not like she was waving her hand saying, hey, I want to be the data center manager. It was
Yeah.
quite the opposite, actually.
That's
Um,
the key piece there, right? And believing in the capabilities of
Yeah.
the
yeah.
people. I think that's really one of the most important pieces. You have to believe in the capability of your people. If you're kind of not doing that and you don't believe in the capability of your people, it almost goes back to like, well, if you don't believe they're capable and you don't believe all these things, why'd you bring them in the first place? Right?
True.
No, that is very true. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hire anyone that I didn't feel or I believe that I could empower and trust enough to let them run on their own. Right? Because I mean,
Uh,
at the end of the day, as a manager, director, or senior director, you have to trust your people. You have to let them
yes.
run on their own. You're not there doing it with them. It's not your job.
Oh,
It's not my
Exactly.
job to be an AD admin. I'm not on the keyboard. Those days are over. I have to
Yeah.
trust my AD admins that they're going to do the right thing every time. And if I can't trust you, then you're not, then you don't have a seat on the bus.
No. I was gonna say, you mentioned speaking on that meta analogy, deserving. I think that's very key because that was one of the things when you about boot camp. Once you made it through, and it was funny because my drill instructor told me I was gonna cry before I leave Paris Island, and I laughed because I was like, "Psh, I'm not crying," and they're like, "You're not gonna beat me
I'm
down."
not giving you the satisfaction.
Exactly. But he fooled me because I went through a lot and he was hard on me and it was like it was okay. But the time that I cried is when I got back from the crucible and they put my EGA in my hand and said, "You're a United States Marine." And I wanted to say something and he just looked at me and it was already there. And it's like you meant from the pride. You didn't mean
That's
from
right.
that you was the pain. And that deserving feeling is, I would say, one of the paramount pieces to building a force that, we have in the military is because everybody showed themselves approved. Because everybody who stepped on those yellow footprints ain't standing with you when graduation happens.
You have
So
to earn it. It's not given. Yeah.
exactly. And once you feel like you have earned it, then when you step into a corporate environment where you felt like you earned your space to be there, same way as kids with MIT and different schools, even then, when they feel like they've earned to be at this Ivy League school, they're coming to compete against, you know what I'm saying, the best of the best or form, higher ideas about themselves. So for me, it's like if you build a company and your requirements, whether it be testing, whatever the case may be, if each employee feels deserving like they're supposed to be here, then it's a different perspective on every other employee. But if you got there through whatever means, and like he says, somebody's jumping on the bus, coming off the bus, with that, you don't feel, even if you're a top-notch employee, you won't be recognized because, people with no taste can enjoy five-star cuisine and really, tell you how good it is. So I think that is a major piece, the deserving factor of it. Because that's what made me commit to my job, even when times I was tired, hurt. It was just that they drilled it into you that you're something different. You're above what people break under. And it
Yep.
filled you with a pride to keep going and, keep pushing. So yeah, I
Yep.
loved it for that.
Yeah. But the hard reality of it is that corporate America is not the military, and
Yeah.
um, they don't have not every corporate leader is would make it through boot camp. Okay. I mean, that's just a
Yeah,
fact.
that.
Um, so what does that translate to? Well, it means that they're all very individual organizational leadership entities. And when you come on board with a company, you have to evaluate it. Actually,
Mm.
you should probably be evaluating it before you come on
Yeah,
board. So, one of the things I'm doing now in my current job search is I'm looking at companies. I'm looking up CEOs. I'm looking up CIOs. I'm looking up chief technical officers
gotcha.
and seeing who they are, getting a feel for them, seeing where they stack in my network on LinkedIn, talking to people about who this person is. Um,
Mm.
and if I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy on it, it's probably not for me.
Absolutely.
It's probably not for me.
Alignment is so important. Alignment with what values, what feels right for you, and all these things.
Yep.
That's really important.
It's
You
better
know.
not to get on the bus than to get on the bus and realize that it's a
It's natural.
madhouse on the bus. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah,
know, you may just want to let that bus drive on by and
absolutely.
and catch the next one.
Because I mean, a lot of times people who are fixers, their first instincts when they step into a madhouse is I can't work with things being out of place. So I'm trying to fix things that are not in my job scope. But in order for me to feel even comfortable, I have to get things organized. So you end up overworking yourself
You may
in those
very well
type of
burn
spaces.
yourself out, or you may very well
Yeah.
make end up stepping on somebody's toes who's quite happy with the fact that it's a mess. Maybe they're
Yep.
That
responsible
part.
for the mess,
That part. Yes, sir.
you know?
That
Yeah.
part.
So it's a little
Yeah.
different scenario for sure.
Yeah, the disorganization can actually hide some of the weaknesses that the person has.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was talking about when I was saying people leading through fear, leading through anger. There's
Yeah.
something, there's a reason they're doing that. Because I can tell you, having led folks since the age of 19, I got promoted to sergeant when I was 19 years old. That's a long ass time. Um, Leaders, it's more work. It's harder to be a bad boss than it is to be a good boss. I think. I think it's very easy to be a good boss. I think you have to work at being a bad boss.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason you're treating people the way you are. Why is that? There's some self-reflection that probably needs to happen there.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe it's corporate culture. Maybe it's just that person's culture. I don't know. Um, but 9 times out of 10, I would say that if there's a bad leader, there's a reason why, and it may or may not actually have anything to do with the company because it's a lot of effort.
That is true. And that's what I felt one of my previous jobs I felt was going on. There was I do maintenance. So there was people who were in cahoots that were ordering things and money allocation that when you start asking for tools and saying things that we need in order to do our job, the budget is low. And it's like, it's funny how money moves, but when we need certain tools, all of a sudden we just going to have to figure it out, or we'd have to purchase our own and, bring it when they were not treating us as if we were contractors, but as
It's a lot of work
employees.
to hide that
Yeah.
nonsense. Yeah.
So it was crazy. And like I said, the boss also was pretty condescending a lot of times in his tone whenever you ask questions.
Because he
So
doesn't want you to look at the man behind the curtain.
Wizard
That's
of Oz.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a great
I'm full of
point.
analogies. I'm full of a lot of things, but I'm also full of
Yeah.
analogies.
It's a good point though. I mean, they kind of create a bravado of of anger and all these things so that you wouldn't think about asking or challenging them because they're already so upset and angry that you wouldn't want to push them off to the next level.
hmm
So and that's yeah,
But that's
that's
karma, right? Right. So to tie this back, turning karma into mission,
yeah.
right? That bad boss and that karma he's throwing out there, okay, that should be a sign to you that that's probably not the bus you want to be on.
mm
And you now I'm not a Buddhist scholar by any stretch, but you can't change what someone puts out there in the world. You can't change someone's karma. You can't change how they act, why they're doing it. It's really none of your business, frankly. And you just need to make your own decision as to how long you're willing to tolerate being on that bus. And I see
Yep.
Patrick there waving his head, going,
I'm just
"You got
like,
it."
that is
You know,
absolutely it. I am not a big person. One thing is in military, you learn to respect your leaders. And by that nature, it means that even if I come into your crazy mad house, it's your crazy mad house. Therefore, if I'm not going to argue or fuss or try to change, you are already the leadership there. I'm coming in. So if they were okay with you leading like this, it's kind of none of my business to correct it. That's not my job. I'm not IA and bring me in to go fix the company.
yeah,
So in that essence, I decide on how long I can, tolerate it. And then I move forward without leaving any bad blood like, I couldn't stand you, because everybody's their own person and have their
yep.
own karma to deal with.
Their
So,
own reasons, their own karma that they have to
yep,
do. Yeah.
yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and so yeah, thanks for a great discussion here.
absolutely.
Looking to lessen all the karmic retribution that they're going to be getting by actually, taking some actions and learning some of these leadership principles so they could develop and grow and we can see how the path is forward. That's
I think
kind
we
of
put
the
a lot of
idea.
good karma out there today, guys. So.
Yeah,
That's the idea. That's
exactly.
that's
Every
what we're
little bit
trying to do
helps.
here. But yeah, this has been great. I think we learned a lot from a lot of different perspectives. Um, and so, with this being said, I think that the leaders of all sorts can kind of see how being more of a proactive leader, making goals, tracking them, and then actually follow through with the promises of those goals, um, can lead to, like we said before, a high performance culture where people want to join the company. It's, instead of it being a revolving door with, people are constantly leaving, people want to stay there because they know that the people are going to be respected, and,
And people are going to be
they're,
trusted. That's
yeah,
that's
and
that's
and
another
trusted.
word. You
Mm,
want to be a trusting leader.
yes,
Hmm.
Remember, because we talked
yes,
about enablement and empowerment. I can only
Yep.
enable. I will only enable and empower you if I can trust you. So that works both ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so important, so important. And then the other big thing that we talked about in the beginning of it was the collaboration with the different officers.
yeah.
That kind of paves the way for the advancement of the other people below them, right? If there isn't a collaboration to begin with, if everyone just kind of flying that seat of their pants, and there's no strategy, and there's no collaboration, um, if someone says, "Hey, I've been working here for 10 years and I'm looking to advance," no one's ever even talked about this thing, so they don't even know how to talk about it, how to discuss it
Mhm.
with this individual. So it's another key piece of leadership. And
Leadership has to
all,
be aligned. They have to make sure they're aligned and that they're walking on the same path and in the same direction.
Yeah,
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes.
And that
So
starts
yeah,
from the mission statement.
And that
yeah,
starts with the mission
Mhm.
statement. Yep.
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 There
yeah.
we go.
So
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to bring it all together here at in the end, in the
thank you,
end of the
Dave.
episode. And anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, I'm good. I
You
think we
good?
tied it in a nice bow.
No,
Okay.
thank you, Dave. I appreciate you and Patrick's time, and I hope
Hey,
folks get something out of this. Thank you.
thank
All
you.
right.
All
Have a
right.
great day, everyone.
Take care.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.